Welcome. My name is Patricia Fitzgerald, and I'm here with Brandon Fouche, dog behaviorist extraordinaire, here at the Brandon Fouche Dog Rehabilitation Center in South Los Angeles. We're here today because recently a documentary aired on the BBC called LA Stories, City of Dogs. And Brandon has received so many emails and so many questions asking him to follow up on some of what was addressed in that documentary. So we thought we'd take this time to reach out to our BBC audience and welcome them to the Fouche Way family here in Los Angeles. And we thank you for your questions, and we hope that we will address them in our segment today. How are you doing, Brandon?
I'm great. Happy to be here. Talk to about the BBC tape to the UK and answer some of the questions that they're
Yeah, we'll send our information across the pond, as they say. So, Brandon, when you were introduced in that documentary, Louis Theroux, the host, said how you were utterly opposed to training. I believe I'm quoting him directly.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the questions that came in were wondering what exactly that meant and what's your opinion on. He kind of referenced that traditional obedience training wasn't exactly your thing.
Right. You know, I've been working with dogs for such a long time. And when you're working with dogs or anything that you do in life for a long period of time, you look for things that are different, things that are going to get you the greatest amount of success. And I found that training was really forcing a dog to do something that they already know how to do, but they would be doing that thing for a different hormonal reason. In other words, it's a different hormone that says lie down and to sit or to stay. And it has nothing to do with the reason that we tell them to do it. And so I found that training was actually negative reinforcement because it was restricting a dog from doing something that it would naturally do, which is to investigate. And so it became something that was negative. And so I said, well, what do we need that for? I mean, I never met a dog that didn't know how to sit or lie down or follow me or stay away from something it was afraid of. I mean, they come here knowing how to do that. I remember once I had a woman that came in my waiting room and she was going to adopt a dog, and she said, I have a treat, can I give it to him? And I said, sure. So she held it over his head and she said, sit. And he sat, and she says, oh, he's so smart, he knows how to sit. And I said, well, he's been sitting all day in the back. It just didn't make sense to me. And every person that came into my waiting room never had a problem with training. They could teach their dog how to do those things. They had behavioral problems. And behavioral problems have nothing to do with training. Training usually gives the person a false sense of security.
That makes sense. So what you're saying is, would you say that dogs who come in here, since you're an aggression specialist, and they probably are very good with maybe agility or sitting or catching a ball, yet they still would have aggression problems, and that wouldn't even be improved by any of that training?
Yeah, well, what I'm really saying, if you were to really take a look down that rabbit hole, at the light at the end of the tunnel would be that the things that we do with our dogs that revolve around training actually have to do with bringing out that predatory side in our dogs. Even agility, because what are we teaching our dogs? How to escape. Once a dog goes over an A-frame that's 6 feet high, we raise it to 8. And then we raise it to 12. But then we have 6-foot fences. So now the dog has learned how to climb out your fence. So when we have the 4th of July and the fireworks are going, that dog jumps the fence. Most dogs are lost during that period of the year. And it's because they are afraid. And so agility helps with that ability to escape. Most of the things that we do with our dogs that have to do with training are actually creating stress. Now, this is what I have found with working with dogs, that it produces stress. In other words, when we try to capture a dog that's in the street, he stays away from us. Dogs stay when they are fearful or apprehensive about something. They already know how to do that. So when we teach them how to stay in the concept of training, we do it in a positive way. When nature says stay when you're afraid. So it's a contradiction in the dog's mind.
Interesting. As an aside, a few weeks ago I was reading in the New York Times a huge article about the multi-billion-dollar dog industry, and it was specifically the second sentence I think said something like, "We are loving our dogs so much and we're creating so many problems," and I thought of you. And they referenced the millions of dollars of toys and all these training tools, and inferring that we purchase so many things for our dogs, yet there's so many behavioral problems that still exist. So do you think a lot of the things we purchase, training tools, etc., are part of the problem?
Yeah, I think that training leads into these things, you know. It is a billion-dollar industry, and it actually first started with working dogs, where they would use these props. So throw it into the water, the dog would jump in and retrieve it. These were working dogs, okay? And it went from there into toys. But what's interesting is that today, we don't have working dogs. We have pets. And so the things that we were doing before to train a dog, to bring out that side of him that ultimately gets him in trouble, because all predatory behavior ends up getting a dog in trouble, right? So when we bring in these toys and we produce a prey drive in our dog, the dog sees what we're doing, it feels what we're doing, and it says, how do I apply this to my life? So if you play tug of war with me and you're telling me to challenge you as my leader, then I see other people as weak. And when they make me feel insecure or afraid, you have taught me to be assertive towards you so I can be assertive towards that person. And most dogs that will play tug of war will end up biting someone because the message is to challenge.
With their mouth.
With their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it is a male that's playing, then those dogs generally become aggressive to other males. If it's a female that plays tug of war, then the lesson is to be that way towards females. And so these games actually produce the very behaviors that we don't want. And what's interesting is that we produce that game. We create the game. So when the dog acts up and it becomes a negativity, why then do we blame the dog when we produced it?
So when you see a cute dog getting the stuffing out of those toys and people think that's so cute, you're saying that there's something more going on there. They're being more attacking a prey in their own mind.
Right. We give dogs things, and our intent is for them to put it in their mouth, right? Mm-hmm. And we're teaching them to solve problems with their mouth. And their mouth is basically for eating, okay? And we say, here, tear this up. That's our intent. And the dog begins to do it and bite it, and it squeaks, and that squeak represents a prey drive, a wounded animal, and the dog learns a behavior. Now, the person moves in next door that has a little Pomeranian that looks like the toys that it's been playing with. The first thing they want to do is make it squeak.
Makes sense.
And so now you've got this learned behavior. So I'm saying there is a part in the dog, which I call the hero within that dog, that we never get a chance to see because we produce prey drive in our dog and love and affection. The more love and affection that we do, we express that to our dogs by buying them things that make them become more of a predator. So you never get a chance to see that side of the dog that you say, wow, this is fabulous, right? And we generally stumble on it. Like, for an example, you may be having a seizure and your dog alerts to that seizure. And then you learn that, wow, he knew I was having a seizure. And so now the relationship begins to change to become something more positive, right? There is a hero within dogs. Mm-hmm. It's like if we want a dog to find bed bugs or a mold, right? They're able to do that. In fact, they already know it exists. They just didn't know we wanted them to find it. These are the kinds of things that we should be looking for in our dog to make them a better pet. We don't have working dogs today. Dogs cannot do what they were created to do. They cannot kill a rabbit that may belong to a pet, or a bird that may belong to your neighbor next door. They are the only animal on earth that can no longer now do what they were created to do in regards to predatory instincts.
Maybe now we're finding new jobs for them. They just haven't been assigned them yet, because now science is having research showing how they detect cancer and, like you said, seizures. And I was reading recently a little girl in a hospital, and they let the dog in the operating room because the dog could see when the little girl was going to have an allergic reaction to the anesthesia, which was never done before in hospitals. So hopefully they'll start getting newer jobs now that we don't need them to hunt anymore, but we don't need them sitting around the house just chewing up the toys and creating that predatory instinct.
Exactly. You know, nature tells a dog to interpret love differently. You know, in nature says follow this leader because he makes you feel secure. He can help you against predators. He can lead you to food and water. He can control the pack emotionally. That's what nature says. Nature doesn't say, you know, take me to Disneyland, and, you know, buy me all these toys to play with and confuse my mind. So love and affection to a dog is just being with the person.
Right.
That's it. It's just like a relationship. The best relationships with two people can just be together with their sweatsuits on watching television.
Right. So we don't need drama in our own human lives, and the dogs don't need so much drama either. They just need peaceful coexistence.
Absolutely.
Nice. I'll buy that. So we have so many questions coming in from the UK that I want to try to address the audience as best we can. In that documentary, a lot of the readers wrote in, or the viewers wrote in, because they were very upset that the little dog was put down in that segment where the couple had a fear-aggressive dog, and they had a trainer come and they did some work with it, but then when we cut to the next scene later, we saw that that dog attacked its owner, the woman, and was put down. So we got a lot of questions coming in asking if you thought there was a chance that that dog could have been rehabilitated, or was it better if it was put down?
Yeah, I think that was a very good beginning on that segment. I mean, the trainer was able to actually show that the dog could be helped. I mean, in a very reasonable amount of time, we saw that the dog could be calm. You know, when you're dealing with fear, there are many levels to fear aggression. You just can't say fear aggression. And you have to be able to see the different levels in fear aggression. And by understanding that there are different levels, and in each level requires that you perform a different way, you've got to be able to see that. And so what I was able to see is that, yes, the dog could be helped, but I don't think that the people themselves had a clear understanding of how to approach this thing. And I think that they really wanted that dog, more so than the dog that they had here. And the problem was that they tried to love the dog out of that state of mind. You know, I had a client once that came in with a dog that was aggressive to people. And I asked them, I said, do you love this dog? And they said, yes. I said, have you tried to do everything that you know how, reading books and treats and all of that to save this dog? They said, yes. I said, okay, come back after I evaluate the dog. So I came back, they came back and I asked them, I said, do you think anyone could love this dog more than you? And they said, no. And I showed them video of the dog with me, sitting in my lap, letting me pet her. And then I asked her, what's love got to do with it? This is about understanding, not about love. Love got them in that situation. It's understanding that's going to get you out. And people found it very difficult to understand that love and affection can create aggression in our dogs. It happens all the time.
Would you say that it's some people are creating, maybe without realizing it, more of a codependent, unhealthy relationship by wanting the dog to quote unquote love them so much and be attached to them emotionally. They're creating more of an unstable emotional dog like humans do with some codependent.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the dog misinterprets what we're saying with the type of love that we do. And since we have the superior minds, we have to understand how a dog perceives love first and then extract what we need from the dog.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the things that we do to our dog to show love and affection is not something that another pack animal can do to them. So it means something different to them. Now, there is a way to show your dog that you love them and to get back the love that we want with humanizing, I mean, because I think that we do have to humanize our dogs. We are human. But the humanizing has to be deeper than what we're doing in order to achieve what we want.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A lot of questions came in regarding the fear aggression issue since you stated that there wasn't a dog that you've seen that couldn't be helped.
Mm-hmm.
When that dog came into the shelter, that was surrendered by its owners,
Mm-hmm.
and then it was put in that cage, and it seemed somewhat aggressive, or was described that. Some of your viewers were wondering, wouldn't that be a normal reaction when strangers are putting a dog in a cage and taking it away from its owner, or would
Mhm.
that be, you know, something that's more serious, or was it kind of hard to tell because it was all done so quickly?
Well, yes and no. Some dogs will walk right in, you know, and some dogs, genetically, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, genetic scale of 1 to 10, your dog is a 3 or a 4, meaning that it has a predisposition to be hyper, right, or excitable, or aggressive, or whatever we may say on that level. Well, we see that and we try to fix that. And in trying to fix it, we can create a 10. People do it all the time, you know. And so we're looking at fear in that particular dog. And as I mentioned, there's different layers of fear or aggression, and you have to approach them differently. You know, it's just like people. We are attracted in certain ways to fear. It affects us a certain way. And if we don't know how to communicate with that dog on that level of fear, then we're going to see something like that. You heard of the term fight or flight. Well, the moment you put a dog on a leash and you restrict them, you take away one of those options. And the option to flee is what you take away, and so the dog fights. So we all know that term, and that's exactly what we were looking at.
That makes sense. It was referred to, this is a question we got about 15 emails on.
Mm-hmm.
One of the trainers mentioned that pit bulls are naturally animal aggressive, and that if the dog was already in a fight, it's probably maybe better to euthanize because they might not be able to be rehabilitated. So a lot of the viewers are wondering if you had a similar experience.
You know, I always equate the relationship with animals just like the relationship with people. And this makes me think about growing up with my uncles. We always fought, you know, but we got along. And I loved them, they loved me. You know, I've been rehabilitating dogs for over 25 years, and sometimes my dogs have disagreements. They've had fights. And if we don't teach a dog how to judge their level of aggression by not doing certain things with them to bring out that predatory side, arguments and fights sometimes are natural in terms of the pecking order. You can turn on the Nature Channel and see it all the time. There was a time when it was told that females can't be together. But then when you look at packs of animals, there are many females that coexist together. So in all my years of working with dogs, and I've seen every one of my dogs get into some type of altercation, but they're still all together. So they can be together. I think that most people think that pit bulls are not pack animals. They weren't designed when they were fighting them to be pack animals. And I think that's what people are looking at. But aside from that, it is an animal first. And the type of animal it is a dog. And that's what we're dealing with, you know? They are not genetically engineered to be aggressive to other animals, and then to say that once they've had a fight, that they will always fight. I have not seen that.
Okay. So we also got a lot of questions addressing that weaponization of dogs, as it was called, where they were training dogs to bite with that arm sleeve thing.
Schützen training.
Schützen training, okay.
Mm-hmm.
What was your opinion on that, and would that make a dog aggressive in general, or can it be that specific to someone breaking in?
Well, the Schützen training has been around since the beginning of working with dogs. They actually call it personal protection work, you know. And the police generally use it for bringing down suspects and things like that. And then it became something that the average citizen could use, but it was mainly for people who had something to protect, you know. They were movie stars or something like that. And so it was very accepted, and then it came down to the lay person, where you can just go in and take a class, and basically for the same reason, to protect something, right? And what happened when rescue became very popular, and a lot of kids would take these classes for Schützen training with their dogs, to be tough, you know, it began to become about being tough, you know. And what I'm thinking of an account where a case I had where a parent told their kid that, look, you're not taking care of this this dog, and he began to become interested in girls at the time, a lot less interested in the dog, and she told him, you got to get rid of this dog. He's tearing up my yard. And so he couldn't destroy the dog, so he took him to the shelter, right? And then a rescue person adopted this dog, not knowing any of the dog's history, okay? And they were out at the park one day, and we had a little kid that was running with a bomber jacket on. And you know how your mother will clip the gloves to the kid's jacket, and it was dangling while the kid was running, and it becomes a scenario. Okay, and so the dog broke loose from the rescuer and went after the kid. Glove, not the kid. Now, the dog is not supposed to do that unless he's told to do that. But the person that adopted the dog, or the rescuer that had it, didn't know about the scenario, didn't know about that. And so the dog is actually not keeping up on his training, right? And a dog is taught to do that, to love doing that. And so the scenario played out, and luckily the kid didn't get hurt. And so, but the dog was still destroyed because of that. Now, responsible people, and I'm sure in the video that's who they're talking to, responsible people who have the money, the time, the means, and the intelligence to work with a dog like that, it's fine. But when you have people that are not responsible, just like anything, it's going to be a problem, you know? And for responsible people, it's fine.
Okay.
But when you have a dog like that, there's a huge level of responsibility. And those kinds of dogs, I'm sorry, cannot be turned into the shelter.
Yeah,
That's
without
a
knowing
problem.
that history, that's a big one.
Yeah, that's
a
because
big
what you're doing is you're professionally teaching dogs to bite people,
Right.
right? And the biggest problem that we have now today are dogs biting people for others, very silly reasons, right? Things
Sure.
that we do by mistake. To have a professionally trained dog to do that, that's a different caliber.
Oh yeah, that's a way different caliber.
Exactly. And how do you know that's what you have?
Yeah,
You see,
you wouldn't turn it
wouldn't
to the
know.
shelter because it looks so cute and nice, except when
Exactly.
it does its thing.
And they're great
Yeah.
dogs. I mean,
Yeah.
you see they're loving and
Sure.
to their family and what have you, but they have that edge. They have that that extra knowledge,
Right.
you know, that they can do this to people.
Right. Okay.
So for responsible people, responsible trainers, shits and trainers, and a responsible lifestyle, it's been around forever, so, you know,
Right.
it'll work.
Okay.
It can work for you. You know.
Okay. I guess another group of questions that came in were referencing in the documentary. There was quite a few references to being the alpha or pack leadership and different maybe kind of approaches towards that. So a lot of the viewers were curious what your opinion about pack leadership or being the alpha is with how you practice the Fouche way.
Yeah. You know, being an alpha is more of strength of personality than by brute force. A lot of
Well
people
said.
think,
Well
yeah,
said. That's
a
really
lot of people
something.
think that you have to be physical with your dog,
Mhm.
you know. And I have found many years ago that being physical actually shows your weakness, okay? You're never going to be physical like another dog would be to another dog if he's in a fight, you know. And when you see animals that are controlled by their pack leaders, it's more of an intimidation.
Mm.
It's not a physical abuse.
Mhm.
And so a lot of people think when you're being an alpha that you're being aggressive.
Mhm.
And that couldn't be further from the truth, you know. That's a problem, thinking that way. It's not about that. So take this story. When puppies are born, when wolves are born, if you've seen puppies in a pack squabble with each other, stand on top
Oh, yeah.
of each other, show their
Oh, yeah.
teeth and
Oh, yeah.
growl, well, what's happening is they are learning life's lessons, but they're using each other first.
Mhm.
So you'll see one puppy grab the ear of another, or the leg of another, or the back of the neck, or the tail, where they're homing in on their skills. And these are the skills that they're going to use to hunt,
Mhm.
to bring down game. And so what I mean by saying that is that the experiences that a puppy has when it's growing up, he's going to use those experiences in his life. It's teaching him that this is what you're going to use in your life. So it's very important that the things that we are doing with our dog is something that's going to mold him into a great citizen of society to live in our world. And if we are producing predatory instincts within this puppy, grabbing, shaking, biting, running after inanimate objects, bringing out that predatory side in them, most of the shelters that are filled with dogs today are dogs where that has been brought out of them. And the chase was really designed to satisfy the stomach.
Mhm.
Food, right?
Mhm.
But because our dog's food comes in a can and a bag now, they don't have to hunt for their food. It's given to them. Then we don't need to wake up that hormone within the dog.
The predatory instinct.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
You know, people say, well, my dog is playing and he enjoys that,
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
Humans, we're a strange creature, you know. We'll get in the ring and we'll try to knock each other's lights out, and then at the end we'll shake hands and say, good fight.
Right. Right.
You know?
Right.
And it's very interesting. The human is the only animal I know that will deny what the body says.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah.
So you may been in situations, I have too, where I'll do something and I say, I knew I shouldn't have done
Mhm.
that. Right?
Yep.
Dogs don't
Absolutely.
do that.
Right.
Animals don't do
Right.
that. They don't want to do it. They don't do it.
Right. Sure. They don't look back.
Exactly.
Right.
So I'm saying that we must be careful. I look at dogs in three ways. It's the love and affection, and on this end is the predatory, and on the middle is the essence of the dog, the beauty of the dog, the things that we sometimes glimpse in and we see. They're like superheroes. They're able to do things that are so miraculous, right? That only a superhero
Right.
could do.
Absolutely.
So I think that we need to be finding that. And that comes with a relationship.
Right.
The dog and you are just like the relationship between you and another human being because it's emotional. We're talking about something that you can't see, an emotion. And some people are more in love and the thought of being in love with their dog than other human beings. And so I think that we need to be looking for the hero within that dog because that's what's going to save us.
Right.
My dogs have made me a better person because I listen
Right.
to my dog. And I say that because in relationships, me growing up with my mother and her sisters, and I would hear the girls together, and when they would complain about their boyfriends, they say, he never listens to me, right?
Right. Right.
He never listens
Right.
to me. And so we find that if you can listen, because that's all we're asking for. I'm not asking you to do anything
Right.
for me.
Right.
My dogs are not saying, do something
Right.
for me, buy me this,
Right.
take me there.
Right.
They're not asking that. They expect for us to think like them.
Right. It's interesting, we're in such a culture of busyness and overstimulation and social media and the internet. So I think that sometimes we transfer the need to be busy all the time to our dogs. Like dogs, like you're saying, what I'm hearing you say are they're happy with a calm, strong presence in the room. They don't need to be constantly entertained. But because we're in this culture, we're so constantly entertaining ourselves.
Right.
I've just kind of got that insight from what you just shared that we think that if we don't keep our dogs entertained, we're doing something wrong. But I've honestly never seen a dog depressed when you take their toys away. They don't walk around moping saying, gee, I missed my toys. They seem
Right.
content
Right.
when they're with you in a calm, peaceful way.
They're not, you can give a person, here again I'm going to relate to humans and dogs. You can give a person everything you think they want, and it doesn't necessarily mean they're
Right.
going to be happy, right?
Absolutely.
But you give a person what they need.
Right.
You give a dog what they need, okay? And they're going to be happy. And that's what leaders of packs, when we talk about leadership, they provide what the pack needs. And nature says when that happens, that's who you follow.
Absolutely.
That's who you love, you see?
Right.
And it's very important that we look at this thing differently. We have to have somewhat of a paradigm shift when we're working with our dogs because it is someone that you love
Right.
very deeply,
Right.
and it is an emotional connection. And so the relationship should be on an emotional level, right? And training takes that away because training says, I want you to do this without understanding why you don't want to do it.
Right. So, in summary of what all this brilliance you're sharing, it seems like if we actually try to learn what our dog needs instead of what we think
They
it
want.
needs
Mhm.
or it wants, and sometimes we have to let go of our emotional attachment to what we've created and really give them what they need, even if we miss playing tug of war, even if we miss certain cute things we've done with them. Do you believe that if owners and guardians learned more of what dogs need instead of giving them what they want, we'd have a lot less dogs turned into shelters and a lot less homeless animals?
Absolutely. When we do these things with our dogs, we're telling them something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And basically, if I ask every one of my clients, what is it that you really want to be able to do with your dog? And they'll say, I want to go to Starbucks. I want to walk down the street and not have my dog lunge at people or other dogs. I want to go to the dog park and have people come over to my house, and I want to go over to their house, right? Well, what does training have to do with any of that? What's going to allow you to do that is socialization, right?
Right.
But we have never been taught how to socialize our dogs from the concept of nature. It's always been through training. But here's the thing. Once you actually are able to get your dog with other dogs, is what I do here, where does training come in? When you have 5 or 6 dogs running around, where does any of the training words come in?
I would guess that they don't really come in.
They don't come in. So if what we really want is for our dogs to be like that, social in every situation,
Mm-hmm.
and if training has nothing to do with that, has no part, then what do we need it for?
You make a good point. I guess we don't really need it, especially not to prevent, all this aggression, and especially not, it doesn't help with the serious issues that the dogs are being turned in for, and the dogs are developing neurotic behaviors, and certainly training, from what you're sharing, makes sense to me, doesn't seem to be.
Well, what I
helping
found
at all.
is, here's a dog, and here's a dog. And one owner, another owner, what we really want is for those dogs to be social
Mhm.
together, right?
Right.
All right, so if that's what we want, and the dogs are being aggressive with each other, or they're trying to get to each other and we're holding them back, then we're creating stress, right? So rather than to learn how to hold them back, we need to be taught how to put them together.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Right.
But training doesn't address that.
Right. It's interesting, you made me just have this realization. Okay, so the emotional connection with our dogs is very deep. I can honestly say the greatest joy I have when I'm around dogs, when you watch them play together and communicate, it brings you like a deep joy. Definitely a deeper joy than, I have and do sometimes teach a dog to sit or down, okay?
Mm-hmm. So what you
And
learn
it's fine.
to do.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Meaning it is what it is. It doesn't bring me a deep joy or satisfaction that they're so fulfilled.
Right.
But when you see dogs who previously might not have gotten along with other dogs so well, or were shut down, or even dogs who were just fine, when you watch dogs in play groups or socializing, it is the most beautiful, beautiful thing.
Right.
Those play style and nature,
Yeah.
honestly, I can and do watch that often, and it brings me a deep joy. So
Well, you're looking at nature.
socialization is right.
You're
Yeah.
looking at two animals socializing and communicating from the concept of
Right.
nature without the interference
Right.
of us and
Right.
what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what we want. Now, I must be fair and say this, though. Training is fine if we understand that it is tricks,
Mm-hmm. Right.
so that we don't get a false sense of security that it is control.
Right.
When we use it for control, then we're working opposite from the way nature intended dogs to process. And I know this, what I'm saying, it can't even be imagined by people,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Right.
I get that, but I'm talking about what I do.
Sure.
I'm talking about the dogs that come in here where people have tried all of that and they're still having a problem.
Sure. When I
Okay.
first heard what you said about training, it was definitely a shock to my system, because we've all heard of obedience training and sit and down and all that stuff. However, knowing the level of dogs that you worked with, the amount of them, and the seriousness of the aggression, and seeing the rehabilitation, I couldn't help but listen to you, and it made sense to me after you explained your philosophy.
Mhm.
But like a lot of the listeners or viewers for the first time, it's kind of surprising when you first hear that obedience training is not necessarily the best thing for your dog. But when you understand, as you share in a lot of what you've shared in this interview and others, when you understand the philosophy, and when I share it with other people that I deal with in the animal
Mhm.
rescue
Mhm.
community, they do say it makes sense. They don't
Mhm.
shut that down, because it really, when you're dealing with nature, you can't really argue with nature.
Yeah.
So the BBC documentary, lots of questions, lots of input. The BBC, I think they all wanted to come across the pond and meet you from the UK. But the highlight of the show that I saw in a lot of the comments was really there was a woman named Angela, and she had a dog who was he was people aggressive. He looked like he was about to attack in the documentary, muzzled, and you met him, and he was brought to your rehabilitation center, and the host of the show was there, and I saw the documentary, and I would not have wanted to be in the same room with that dog. Okay, and this, God bless the guardian of the dog, Angela, because she was committed to not having the dog put down, but she was living a very sheltered life, if you will, because in her home she had the dog in a kennel, and she couldn't just have people over, and God bless her for, you know, being committed to the dog, but fortunately she did find some help. So
Right.
you watch that episode, that segment on the BBC documentary, and they think, wow. And she had a friend who was a vet who recommended putting the dog down, and other friends as well. So then we see Angela coming here to the rehabilitation center, and we see you outside, and you, as a lot of the comments said, like, did your magic, and you saw the dog calm down, and then you took the muzzle off, and you and the host of the show, who admits he's not an animal guy, were in your truck with a previously very aggressive dog, and the dog looked very calm.
Right.
So this was not trick photography, as they used to call it. There were no special effects, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it did look, wow, it happened quickly. So I found it interesting because of the comments. No one was questioning that it happened. It was just happened before your eyes. But people were dying to know how Angela is doing with the follow through with that dog. Burger was the name of that dog, and that was probably like the most comments and questions came regarding that, because that was really where we got to see the way you work and how, you know, successful a rehabilitation can be in a relatively short period of time, although we know that the owner has to follow through.
Sure. You know, this is called the Fouche way, because this is my way of approaching things, you know. In working with aggression, and I would tell people that if they want to know how to work with animals, you need to understand fear. Okay. We talk about fear aggression, dominance aggression, subdominant aggressiveness, and some dogs are multi-layered. But the problem with dogs lies within fear. And I know people and professionals would disagree with me, and I understand that, but I'm only talking about what I have learned. Every dog that I have worked with that had some type of aggressive issue was because they were unfamiliar, or that somehow they got involved with something and they left with fear. Okay? And so when they come back, they're approaching through fear. It's like when the doctor says, well, I don't want you to put your dog with other dogs until it's had all of its shots. And then the dog misses that opportunity of socialization during the fear imprint period and the socialization period of a dog's life. And so they're taken away from that. And then after the shots are given, and then they're brought back in when they left during the fear imprint period, then they come back with that fear. And we see towards another dog. The owner sees that, pulls away, right? Produces more stress, and say, whoa, this dog is aggressive, and they put him away and he becomes a backyard dog, right? It is revolved around fear. And if we relate this to people, we can become negative and aggressive and in life because of things that we don't know about. It's fear.
Oh yeah, we've all done that.
Exactly. So in this case, me knowing that there's different levels of fear aggression, when I saw Burger in the video, and then when he came to me, I knew what type of fear this was. And I want to tell the BBC people.
Okay. We get to know the secrets of Brandon Fouche. Everybody pay
You know, there is a natural genetic fear aggression, and what it looks like is when you corner a wild animal, they're trying to get away from you. They become aggressive. Most of our fear aggression that we deal with here is learned. We've actually taught our dogs how to be this way because we didn't know how to explain to them what they were involved with. In Burger's case, he is genetically fearful. This is genetic, okay? And now, you take a dog that is genetically skittish and fearful, and we try to bring him out of that by doing assertive things with him, like roughhousing, right? Tug of war, chase,
Had that been done with him?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
I'm sure it has.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what happens is that dog now moves forward towards people
Mm-hmm.
because it's a person that actually did it with him,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so he learns, he takes that lesson that we call a game and he applies it to life,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay.
And so now he's genetically fearful, and now he has a learned behavior of being assertive towards people. So now when he sees someone new and the fear jumps up, what have I learned to do with that? I go forward.
Right.
I lunge.
So the nature and the nurture. You had the nature for the fear, and then it was nurtured. Like the field of epigenetics, which
Yes.
is understanding that we have certain genes,
Mm-hmm.
but they can be switched on
Right.
with certain behaviors or certain nutrients,
Mhm.
etc. So
Absolutely.
if you know there's a genetic wiring, then you don't want to turn on that
Exactly.
kind of fear response.
Right. So when I saw that he was genetically fearful, right?
Right.
Then the key to work with genetically fearful dogs is to not physically dominate them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or try to sweet talk them,
Mm-hmm.
because they both will produce the learned behavior,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because everyone loves their dogs and they kiss and hug, so it's a sign of subordination. So when a dog is straddled the fence like, who are you? And we say, oh baby, you're so sweet. He says, oh,
Right.
that's who you are. Rah!
Right.
Right? And so the person backs up, dominance jumps into the dog, fear jumps into you, and that becomes the learned behavior.
Okay.
You see? So when I saw him do that, he barked, and then when I opened the door, he backed away momentarily.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I talk about moving forward, moving forward,
Mhm.
moving forward. If at that moment when he barked, as I'm doing a dominant thing by moving in his direction, if I pause
Right.
for a moment, right, then he realizes that I'm weak.
Wow, that's deep. Because you did move forward, and God knows, I don't know anybody but you who have the guts to do that. But obviously, that was the thing to do.
Yeah, and then, you know, he
That's
had
your
a
experience.
right,
You're
and
the
he had a
professional.
muzzle on too.
Oh, yeah, you're the professional, and that's the difference. I wouldn't try it.
So
That was awesome.
So as we go forward, and I continue to move forward, in the moment when he's trying to figure out, am I
Right,
friend or
right.
foe, I see him back up a
Right.
bit. And at that moment, when he backs up, it's just like a person pausing,
Right.
right? And so I went in to get him. Now,
That was that was like a work of art to watch that.
you know, when you
Actually.
understand fear,
Mm-hmm.
when you study fear,
Mm-hmm.
you see things that others
Mhm.
can't,
Right.
because most people don't want to see it.
Right. It was obvious you saw the subtleties
Yes.
that we inexperienced dog lovers wouldn't. And it was beautiful to watch the dance of how you were able to do what you did with him in a short period of time.
I'm glad you said that, because in socialization with dogs, when I
Mhm.
watch my dogs socialize with each other,
Mhm.
what we call play,
Mm-hmm.
you see the dance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love watching that.
Right?
It's beautiful.
Now, what normally what you see is the dance, right? And it's
Mhm.
beautiful,
Mhm.
but it's just like on is it American Idol where they're
Mhm.
dancing?
Yeah.
Dancing with
they
the Stars?
sing. Dancing with the Stars.
Right. What you don't see is before,
Right.
when they're teaching them how to do that, what
Right.
each step means. So when I'm looking
Right.
at that, that's what I'm looking at.
Right.
And then you can see the beauty on the outside, you know?
Right.
So in bringing him out of the car, this is a very important, that's why I'm spending a lot of time on this, because most people have problems with this, right? Now, because this dog shows the people aggression, because this is genetic, because he's been prompted to be like this, he has been very successful with keeping people at bay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Repeated behavior, repeated responses.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it empowers him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the key to working with this particular dog is that I close the gap.
Mm-hmm.
Do something to him
Right.
that has never
Right.
been done.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now, why? Why do I do that? Is because I want him to see me as a leader. I'm not making him fight for his life. I'm not dominating him and making him afraid. Nor am I saying, I'm this sweet guy that wants to love you and I'm okay and you should love me. I'm simply existing in that moment with him. So that then, now when he's with me, he's looking outward.
Right.
Right? And at that moment, that's when I know his mind has shifted.
Right.
And then from there, we could say rehabilitation begins.
Right. That was awesome. Because you were so experienced that you knew it was safe for Lewis, the host, to go in that truck. You saw the body language, like that's the level of expertise you have, which, you know, that to most people would seem risky, and that's the difference between someone who's had experience and what they do when they just, you can read the subtleties.
Well, that's a good eye, because once the dog starts looking outward, when we're here, then we know where the mind is.
Right, right.
Right? And so, from all the experiences of fear aggression that I've been involved with, you know, you take 50 dogs, and each dog does the same thing the same way for the same reason.
Sure.
You know that that's a formula.
Right. You've got to see it
exactly
multiple times over these past few decades.
Exactly.
Right.
And so when you see that, to the untrained eye, it looks like magic.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And I guess in a way it is, but it's really knowledge.
Right.
And I want to say that anyone can do this. It can be taught to anyone. But we have to look beyond our fears, beyond what society is telling us in regards to training and positive reinforcement. And love and affection is going to solve all the problems, right? We have to do away with all of that, because love saved the dog. Love got him in your home. Right? But the kind of love that we're doing is not talking to the dog. That's going to have to come through knowledge.
Right. Well, good. Hopefully you'll be sharing more on your blog, and because we need to learn more to help our dogs and help our community.
Yes. Yes.
So how's Angela doing these days?
Well, you know, since I knew we were going to do the interview, I wanted you to be here when she brought him in.
Oh, good.
Because I haven't seen him since then.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
And to prove what I'm saying, I want to see
great.
what happens.
So we can see how I'm. Okay, so
exactly.
we'll go see if she's outside.
Yeah, let's go see.
Cool.
All right.
Hi.
Come on.
How are you?
How's it going? Come on in. Have a seat.
How you doing?
All right.
Hi, Angela. It's Patricia. Nice to see you again.
Hi, nice to see you.
Just have
Wow.
Did you like it?
Yeah. Okay. This is Burger.
Burger looks a lot calmer than he did on that documentary.
Oh, he's doing great. He's doing really good.
So, Angela, what's different than, well, clearly he doesn't have a muzzle on and he's calm, and there's a few people here with the crew and he seems pretty chill.
Yeah,
and he just met me. So what's happened since the documentary, the muzzle came off? We saw that whole thing. So what's your life been like since?
Well, he's coming to work with me now. I haven't done everything that Brandon's asked me to do, but he's a lot more calmer. And I'm able to bring him to the shop. I don't usually put a muzzle on him. I only put a muzzle on him when I feel that I can't handle his situation. Because he's a powerful dog, he's big. But he's doing really good. Super good. I've taken him to Venice Beach, and no, he's coming along, but he is who he is, and I've learned to just accept the fact that, you know, he's fearful, and I just have to learn how to deal with it myself. I think the anxiety is more from me than it is from Burger, but as you see, totally different.
Right, he's very calm as we're filming this, and he's in the room with new people, and he just kind of chilling.
He's
great.
a great dog. He's a great dog. He's really sweet. You know, with people he gets to know, and after he's comfortable for a while. But yeah, Brandon's done wonders.
Great. Well, it's great to see this follow through, because we had a lot of questions from the UK, because the highlight of, or a big major piece of that documentary was seeing the transformation of Burger, and it's nice to see that the follow through is even better, and so
Here
much
he
time
is.
after the documentary. So thanks for coming in, and
Absolutely.
we look forward to hearing more about his progress and your progress as you get more confident and he continues to be more balanced.
Yeah, thank you. It's really a pleasure.
Thanks.